Dr. Amara Soliman stood transfixed before the artifact that had consumed her life for the last 3 months. The sarcophagus was unlike anything she had seen. The symbols covering it were eerily similar to hieroglyphs, but twisted, almost as though written by a hand unfamiliar with Earth's gravity. The material itself defied explanation, an alloy that shimmered like obsidian but pulsed faintly under ultraviolet light. Her excavation team in the heart of Egypt had been stunned when ground-penetrating radar picked up the anomaly. The chamber that housed the sarcophagus was buried hundreds of feet below the Great Pyramid, a place no one thought to look. Sealed within the tomb were strange devices, angular and metallic, humming faintly when approached. They resembled machinery far beyond anything the ancient Egyptians could have created. Amara's initial thought had been a hoax, but carbon dating and metallurgical analysis proved the artifacts to be over 5,000 years old. The centerpiece of the discovery, however, was the sarcophagus. Its lid bore an engraving of a face, half human, half alien. The elongated skull and hollow eyes seemed alive, almost accusatory. Around the lid's edges were inscriptions that baffled linguists and cryptographers alike. Some believed the script to be Proto-Egyptian, while others argued it bore the hallmarks of mathematical equations. One evening, as the team worked late in the underground lab, hastily set up near the dig site, an assistant accidentally triggered something. A faint vibration emanated from the sarcophagus, followed by a low hum. The inscriptions on its surface began to glow with an unearthly cyan light. The hum grew louder, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to synchronize with the heartbeats of everyone in the room. Amara ordered everyone out except for herself and her most trusted engineer, Samir. Together, they watched as the lid began to shift, not opened by hand, but by an invisible force. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, their breath visible in the air. Dr. Soliman, Samir stammered, This isn't just a relic. It's a machine, Amara finished, her voice barely above a whisper. The lid slid completely off, and the room was flooded with a blinding white light. When their vision adjusted, they saw what lay inside. A perfectly preserved figure wrapped in something resembling bandages, but made of metallic fibers. The figure's skin shimmered, golden yet translucent, with veins coursing a liquid that glowed faintly. Its face bore the unmistakable visage of a pharaoh, yet its features were unnervingly inhuman, elongated eyes, sharp cheekbones, and an unnatural symmetry. Amara's scientific curiosity overpowered her fear. She stepped closer, marveling at the creature's unnatural beauty. The inscriptions on the sarcophagus seemed to pulse in rhythm with the glowing veins, and she realized with dawning horror that the being wasn't dead. It's in stasis, Amara, she muttered. Before Samir could react, the sarcophagus emitted a deafening tone. The strange metallic devices around the room began to activate, projecting holograms of constellations and diagrams too complex to comprehend. Amara and Samir were bathed in streams of light that seemed to scan them. The being's eyes snapped open. The creature bolted upright with an unnatural speed. Its movements were both graceful and jerky, as though it were still calibrating its body. The glowing veins brightened, and the room grew colder still. The creature's gaze locked onto Amara, and she felt as if her soul were being pierced. It spoke, not in words, but in a series of harmonic vibrations that resonated inside their minds. Amara fell to her knees, clutching her head as visions flooded her consciousness. Ancient cities rising under twin suns, alien ships descending over the Nile, and a pact forged between the stars and Earth's rulers. She saw the being's past, its rise as a conqueror who united Earth under its command with technology gifted by beings from another world. And she saw its betrayal, humans turning against their celestial benefactors, entombing this hybrid ruler deep beneath the sands to erase its legacy. The vision ceased abruptly, and Amara gasped for air. The creature had risen to its feet, standing nearly 7 feet tall. Its metallic bandages fell away, revealing a body that was neither wholly human nor alien. Its chest pulsed with an energy core embedded within, and its hands bore long, claw-like appendages that shimmered like blades. The creature turned its head slowly toward Samir, who was paralyzed with fear. It raised a hand, and a tendril of energy shot out, wrapping around his throat. Samir screamed as his body convulsed, his skin paling as though the life were being drained from him. The creature absorbed the energy, and its movements became more fluid, its form solidifying as though regaining strength. "Stop!" Amara screamed, finding her voice. She scrambled backward, her heart pounding. "We freed you. We're not your enemies." The creature turned its gaze to her, and for a moment, its expression softened, or so she thought. It raised its hand again, but this time, the tendril of energy didn't attack. Instead, it touched her forehead gently. A searing pain shot through her mind, and she collapsed. When Amara awoke, she was alone. The sarcophagus was empty, the strange devices dark and lifeless. Samir's lifeless body lay crumpled in the corner, his face frozen in terror. But the creature was gone, leaving behind only a faint scorch mark on the ground. Amara staggered to her feet, her head swimming with fragmented memories. She could still hear the harmonic vibrations in her mind, a message imprinted into her subconscious. "I am Pharaoh Akhet'Ra, herald of the stars. Your kind betrayed me, and I have returned to claim what is mine." Amara stumbled out of the underground lab, the cold desert night air stinging her face. Her mind was a battlefield of conflicting thoughts. Was this a scientific breakthrough? Or had she just unleashed humanity's greatest threat? The excavation site was eerily silent. She called out for the team, but only the sound of the wind answered. In the distance, the Great Pyramid stood illuminated by floodlights, a silent sentinel over the sands. But something was wrong. The lights around the pyramid flickered, and strange, rhythmic pulses of blue energy rippled across its surface. Amara's heart sank. The creature was there. She grabbed a radio from the nearby workstation and frantically called her backup team stationed at the surface. "This is Dr. Soliman. Lock down the perimeter. Don't let anyone near the pyramid." Static answered her call. The radio buzzed, and a faint, harmonic tone echoed through the receiver. Her hands trembled as she realized the creature was already interfering with communications. Amara had no choice but to head toward the pyramid. As she approached, the ground beneath her feet began to vibrate. Faint symbols, similar to those on the sarcophagus, lit up along the base of the pyramid, forming intricate patterns that pulsed in synchronization with the glowing capstone at its peak. The air grew heavy, making each step feel like a struggle. Amara's fear warred with her curiosity. Was the pyramid a mere tomb? Or had it always been a piece of alien machinery, waiting for this moment to be reactivated? Amara entered through an opening that had never existed before. The stone blocks had shifted seamlessly, forming a passage illuminated by a cold, blue light. She followed the path, the air thick with an electric charge. Her flashlight flickered and died, leaving her to rely on the ambient glow of the pulsating walls. The corridor led to a vast chamber deep within the pyramid, one that defied everything she knew about its internal structure. The walls were smooth, metallic, and etched with alien symbols that glowed faintly. At the center of the chamber stood the hybrid Pharaoh, Akhet'Ra, surrounded by levitating artifacts that hummed with energy. The creature was no longer merely an amalgamation of human and alien features. It had transformed further. Its elongated skull was encased in a shimmering crown that seemed to interface directly with its brain. Its once clawed hands had evolved into sleek, weapon-like appendages that emitted faint trails of plasma. The core embedded in its chest now pulsed with a blinding intensity, as though it were drawing power from the pyramid itself. "Why are you doing this?" Amara shouted, her voice echoing in the chamber. "We freed you. We mean no harm." Akhet'Ra turned, its glowing eyes locking onto her. Its voice resonated directly in her mind, bypassing her ears. "You freed me, yes, but not out of reverence. Your kind has forgotten its place. I am here to remind you." The levitating artifacts began to shift, forming a three-dimensional star map that filled the chamber. Amara recognized the constellations but was horrified to see that the map included no Earth-centric view. Instead, it displayed the solar system as one node in a vast, interstellar network. "What are you planning?" Amara demanded, her fear giving way to desperation. "The reclamation," Akhet'Ra replied, its tone calm but menacing. "Your species thrived only because we allowed it. You have squandered the knowledge we bestowed. Now, your world will be reforged in my image." With a wave of its hand, Akhet'Ra activated the pyramid. The chamber trembled as beams of energy shot upward from the capstone, piercing the night sky. Across the desert, other pyramids, long thought to be unconnected, began to glow and emit similar beams, forming a web of energy that encompassed the land. Outside, the world reacted in panic. Satellite imagery showed the beams converging high in the atmosphere, creating a massive energy dome that expanded outward, disrupting communications, satellites, and even electrical grids. Cities across the globe plunged into chaos as power outages spread like wildfire. In Cairo, the government scrambled to understand what was happening. Military aircraft were dispatched to investigate the pyramids, but as they approached the energy field, they disintegrated mid-flight, reduced to nothing but ash. The world watched in horror as news channels broadcast the unexplainable phenomenon. Inside the pyramid, Amara realized she was witnessing something far greater than she had imagined. "Akhet'Ra, stop this," she pleaded. "There's no need for violence. We can learn from you, from your technology." Akhet'Ra's gaze softened for a moment, as if considering her words. But then its eyes flared with renewed intensity. "You speak as though your kind has ever respected knowledge. Your history is one of destruction, not preservation. I offer a new era, one free from your failures." Amara's mind raced. She needed a way to stop this. But how could she fight something so advanced? Her eyes darted around the chamber, landing on the levitating artifacts. They were clearly integral to whatever was happening. If she could disrupt them. Taking a deep breath, Amara bolted toward the nearest artifact. Akhet'Ra reacted instantly, raising a hand to unleash a burst of energy. The blast struck the ground near her feet, sending her sprawling. Pain shot through her leg, but she forced herself to crawl toward the artifact. "I won't let you destroy us," she shouted. Akhet'Ra tilted its head, as though bemused by her defiance. It raised its hand again, but before it could strike, the chamber was rocked by a sudden explosion. Dust and debris rained down as a section of the wall collapsed, revealing a team of heavily armed soldiers. "Dr. Soliman, get down," one of them shouted, opening fire on Akhet'Ra. The bullets ricocheted harmlessly off its shimmering armor, but the distraction gave Amara the moment she needed. She reached the artifact and smashed it with a nearby piece of debris. The artifact shattered, and the chamber was immediately plunged into chaos. The star map flickered and warped, and the energy beams outside began to falter. Akhet'Ra roared, not in pain, but in anger. The hybrid's form flickered, as though it were losing cohesion. "You dare defy me?" it bellowed, its voice reverberating through the pyramid. The soldiers continued their assault, but Akhet'Ra retaliated with devastating force. One by one, the soldiers fell, their bodies crumpling under the weight of the creature's power. Amara watched in horror as the hybrid advanced toward her, its glowing eyes burning with fury. Before it could reach her, a strange sound filled the chamber, a harmonic tone, similar to the one that had awakened Akhet'Ra, but higher in pitch. The remaining artifacts began to glow, and a new hologram emerged, a figure, humanoid but distinctly alien. The hologram spoke in a language Amara didn't understand, but Akhet'Ra froze. For the first time, the hybrid seemed uncertain, even afraid. What is it?" Amara whispered, her voice trembling. Akhet'Ra turned its gaze toward her, its expression unreadable. "You have summoned them." "Summoned who?" "The Keepers of Balance." The chamber began to shake violently as the hologram intensified, its form solidifying into something real. The battle for Earth was far from over, and now, it seemed, even Akhet'Ra was no longer in control. The chamber shook with a resonance that seemed to come from another dimension. The holographic figure solidified, becoming a towering presence that emanated authority. It was humanoid but otherworldly. Its translucent body glowed faintly, revealing an intricate lattice of energy flowing within. Its face was featureless save for two glowing orbs where eyes might have been. Amara instinctively took a step back, her mind reeling at the sight of the entity. Akhet'Ra's once imposing demeanor faltered. The hybrid pharaoh's voice resonated with both anger and fear as it addressed the newcomer. You should not be here, Keeper. This is not your domain. The Keeper tilted its head, its glowing eyes narrowing. Its voice, a symphony of harmonic tones, reverberated in the minds of all present. You violated the Concord. The reclamation was never meant to involve destruction. Amara watched in stunned silence as Akhet'Ra and the Keeper faced off, their exchange transcending human comprehension. The Keeper's words echoed with an undeniable power, resonating deeply within her, as if the entity spoke to her very soul. The Keeper raised a hand, and the shattered artifact fragments around the chamber began to levitate, reassembling themselves into a glowing sphere of energy. The sphere pulsated with a frequency that seemed to destabilize Akhet'Ra. The hybrid staggered, its form flickering as though caught in a glitch. "You do not understand," Akhet'Ra growled, its voice strained. "I was betrayed, cast down by those I uplifted. The Concord failed me. Humanity failed me. This world is mine to reclaim." The Keeper's voice remained calm but resolute. "You were chosen to guide, not to rule. Your failure was not humanity's but your own. Your actions now jeopardize the balance we swore to protect." Amara's mind raced. This Concord sounded like an ancient interstellar agreement, one that bound Akhet'Ra and, apparently, this Keeper. But what was the nature of their pact, and why was Earth so central to it? Akhet'Ra's glowing chest core flared brighter, the hybrid drawing energy directly from the pyramid. "If you will not stand aside, Keeper, then you will fall as the others did millennia ago." The chamber erupted into chaos as Akhet'Ra unleashed a torrent of energy at the Keeper. The beam was powerful enough to disintegrate the remaining soldiers, their bodies reduced to ash in an instant. Amara dove for cover behind a column, her heart pounding as the air around her crackled with energy. The Keeper countered effortlessly, raising its hand to deflect the attack. The energy beam splintered into harmless shards of light, scattering like stars across the chamber. The Keeper moved with a fluid grace, its body phasing in and out of visibility as it closed the distance to Akhet'Ra. Their clash was a spectacle of raw power, blades of energy, gravity distortions, and bursts of light that momentarily turned night into day. The pyramid trembled, its ancient stones groaning under the strain of the battle. Amara realized with growing horror that the pyramid itself was being destabilized. If it collapsed, it would bury her and any chance of stopping Akhet'Ra. Amara's eyes darted to the reassembled sphere of energy floating at the center of the chamber. It seemed to pulse and sync with the pyramid's beams. If she could disrupt it again, perhaps it would weaken Akhet'Ra enough for the Keeper to subdue the hybrid. Summoning every ounce of courage, she crawled toward the sphere, using the shadows and debris as cover. The heat and light from the battle scorched her skin and seared her vision, but she pressed on. As she neared the sphere, she noticed something strange. Symbols began to appear on its surface, the same alien script that had been on the sarcophagus. The symbols weren't just glowing, they were shifting, rearranging themselves in a pattern that felt oddly familiar. Then it hit her, the visions Akhet'Ra had imprinted on her mind earlier. The symbols were part of a sequence, a failsafe encoded into the pyramid's design. Her trembling fingers reached for the sphere, her mind racing to decipher the sequence. She could feel the energy coursing through the artifact, threatening to overload her senses. Closing her eyes, she let the symbols guide her, trusting the fragmented memories Akhet'Ra had inadvertently given her. The moment Amara pressed the final symbol in the sequence, the sphere erupted with a burst of light. A shock wave rippled through the chamber, severing the connection between Akhet'Ra and the pyramid's energy field. The hybrid staggered, its chest core dimming as it let out a guttural roar. "No!" Akhet'Ra bellowed, its voice a mix of rage and despair. "You cannot deny me. This world is mine." The Keeper seized the opportunity. It raised both hands, and a lattice of energy bands materialized around Akhet'Ra, binding the hybrid in place. Akhet'Ra struggled against the bonds, but its power was waning. Amara collapsed to the ground, her body trembling with exhaustion. She watched as the Keeper approached Akhet'Ra, its towering form radiating a sense of finality. "Your time has passed, Akhet'Ra. The Concord demands balance, and you are no longer a part of it." With a wave of its hand, the keeper activated the energy bands, which began to compress around Akhet'Ra. The hybrid's form flickered violently, its screams echoing throughout the chamber. Finally, with a blinding flash, Akhet'Ra's body disintegrated, leaving behind only a faint, golden mist that dissipated into the air. The chamber fell silent. The glowing symbols on the walls faded, and the pyramid ceased its pulsations. Outside, the energy dome collapsed, leaving the night sky clear once more. Across the globe, power was restored, and the world took its first breath of relief. The keeper turned to Amara, its glowing eyes regarding her with an inscrutable expression. For a moment, she feared it might turn its judgment on her, but instead it spoke. "You have acted with courage and wisdom, human. But know this, the Concord's balance is fragile. Should your kind stray again, the consequences will be irreversible." Before she could respond, the keeper's form began to dissipate, fading into the same golden mist that had claimed Akhet'Ra. The artifacts in the chamber crumbled to dust, leaving no trace of their presence. Amara sat in the rubble, the weight of what had happened pressing down on her. She had saved humanity for now, but questions lingered. What was the true nature of the Concord? And were there others like Akhet'Ra, waiting beneath the sands, biding their time? As the first rays of dawn illuminated the desert, Amara knew her life would never be the same. The secrets of the pyramids were far deeper than she had ever imagined, and she was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost.